Hey, everybody. Getting started a little bit late. I'm actually using a new platform, streaming platform, so I had a little bit of issues. I'm just making sure they're connecting to all the social media platforms. Okay, I think we're good. Give it a few seconds here. Beastmaster, what's up? Appreciate you, man. Right on. Merry Christmas. Welcome. Happy solstice, everyone. Let me know if my audio is coming clear in the chat. If someone can do that, that would be great. I had to switch over to a new streaming software. Hi, Sarah. Thanks for joining. I was using StreamYard for a very long time, and I really liked the platform, and they decided to get greedy and double their prices. They had some new owners come in and they kind of cleaned up shop. So I had to look for new sources. I found a really good one, but I'm still kind of fresh at it. Sounding good? Excellent. All right. So thank you all for joining. It's been a little bit since I did a live presentation. This is my favorite content to do. Presentations in itself, you have the visual aspects, you have the logical progression. I can really dive deep into a topic and then interact with the chat and interact live. So I'm happy to be here. Solstice blessings to everyone. Hope everyone's having, a smooth build up to the holidays. This year went by super fast. But here we are. 2025 is going to be impactful, empowering, hopefully. And I'm looking forward to it. I got a lot on my list, so it's gonna be exciting. So without further ado, let's dive into this presentation. Now, I originally gave this presentation, let's see, a couple months ago. It was at the STE Academy conference. This is based out of Australia. There's people from all around the world, but primarily that space of the planet. And fantastic people. The hosts are amazing. So big shout out to Dale Holmes and Madeline Doherty. I appreciate both of you for doing these conferences focused on esoteric knowledge, natural law, freedom, self-knowledge and wisdom. I mean, this is where it's at. They're doing the one great work, and I highly respect and appreciate that. So this presentation was greatly received, and it was awesome. I added a little bit more. I extended it a little bit in this current presentation. So I hope everyone gets value. And of course, as in all my presentations, I aim to simplify the profound, take a deep concept. Let's break it down to its simplistic form so we can comprehend it, understand it, see the utility in this information, in this knowledge, and of course, apply it to our own behavior and action to create change in the world, positive change for sure. So without further ado, let's get into the science of love. Eros, Philos, Agape, and polarity. Focusing on those categories. Of course, there's many more, but in this presentation, we're going to focus on these. And, what's love got to do with it? Let's get into it. All right. So, of course, introductions. So many of us find ourselves confused about what love really means. Is it merely a chemical reaction in the brain, a set of biological impulses, or is it something deeper, an esoteric energy that connects us to each other and the universe at large? This confusion arises because love is multifaceted. It encompasses a range of experiences and, in fact, shapes the very societal condition for humanity. Bold, underline, and italic. that last line. A range of experiences, and in fact shapes the very societal condition for humanity. So we use this word all the time, every day. I love you, I love my food, I love my pets, I love this, I love that, etc. But what does that mean? What does that truly mean? What is this concept of love? And we're going to explore this, dive into it. And of course, I have a message that I always implement in these presentations. And there is a reason why the control structure, the social engineers want the majority of people ignorant and confused or misdirected on what love truly is. So another caveat, awareness reveals choice. And higher awareness is necessary to see the forest from the tree. We must increase our pattern recognition by the way of critical thinking, which is the trivium truth discovery process. So we can make an accurate diagnosis of the problem. As we raise our consciousness, opportunity will arise for more states of harmony and symbiosis. So the image on the left, I have, this is the trivium process, right? Knowledge, understanding, I have understanding, and then wisdom, grammar, logic, and rhetoric. We take in information, we process that, and then we apply it to our behavior. So this is a process of not only critical thinking, right? But it's also the process of how we create our shared reality, how we individually influence our collective reality, the shared reality, and how on a societal level we generate the condition, right? So the key here is knowledge, is information. So this is the purpose of all of my presentations, is to express certain types of information for you to take in, the audience, the viewer, to take in, to process, apply it to themselves and to their behavior, right? So, thanks for joining, Frank. I'm using EV streaming platform. I've used Restream in the past and used that for over a year, had some issues, and then kind of played with EV and it's got a lot of capabilities. So it's nice. I can see the chat way more easier than on previous streaming platforms. So thanks for joining. It's going smooth so far. All right, so let's start with our definitions. My title is The Science of Love. What is science? Well, from Latin, it is sciere, to know, and it is the state or fact of knowing. What is known? Knowledge acquired by study, learning, and application. And so love, and again, I'm going to give this definition, but we're going to expand on it in this presentation, of course, right? So it's from the Proto-Indo-European. That's questionable, but you know, it's not really a consensus. But from my research, not sure how to pronounce it. Libu, I don't know. It almost sounds French when I do it. And what it means is the etymology of love means to care, and also desire. So we'll define love in this presentation, and at the end, hopefully you will have clarity of meaning, which is definition, a higher definition of love and what that means. So in many esoteric traditions, in many cultures and ancient cultures, when they talked about love, when they expressed love and conveyed love, they had many forms and types and conditions of love. When I went and kind of did my research, it was remarkable. All the categories of what they called love and all the different definitions and expressions of that. I found that profoundly insightful, because in the modern age, we just say love. We use it, interchangeably with all of these things. It has no depth. It has no meaning to it, right? Even in a romantic relationship, oh, I love my partner, I love my significant other. If I ask somebody, show me love, show me a mother's love, right? People would have a hard time explaining this, right? So I'm focusing on the the Greek tradition, and I'm going to go through the Hermetic and also Egyptian, ancient Egyptian, the Cometian sprinkled in there. But I'm using the Greek, and we're going to go through these. And of course, the Greek had up to 12, but there was really 3 overarching main types of love. And we're going to dive into those. So the first one is eros. So eros is the Greek term for passionate, romantic love, often associated with sensual desire and longing. It's the force that drives individuals towards physical union and procreation. So it's what we know as romantic love, but it's more than that. In esoteric traditions, eros transcends mere physical attraction. It represents the soul's yearning to reunite with the divine source, a desire for wholeness and completeness. This concept mirrors the idea of the anima and the animus in the Jungian psychology, where the inner masculine and feminine seek integration. They seek union. The anima and the animus, these are macro and micro attributes of forces. In psychology of the individual, we have the anima and the animus. These are just different words for masculine and feminine characteristics of energy, right? So the anima and the animus, when it comes to children and adults, but I'm primarily talking about children, it's related to mother and father. So this has a huge impact on our childhood and in our adult life, and how we view eros, romantic love. So eros, the spiritual significance, eros symbolizes the creative life force energy. When awakened, can lead to higher states of consciousness. It's the catalyst for transformation, pushing individuals to move beyond themselves and connect deeply with others and the universe. Eros is that foundational, vital force, creative force that is pushing through all life, all living beings. This is an part of the animated principle of to exist, to be alive. And anything that's alive wants to stay alive and wants to express its living animation. This is why every living being has a defense mechanism as well, down to bacteria and amoebas, all the way up to human beings, animals, and plant life, of course. So I would even say beyond to the celestial kingdoms as well. But this force of eros is going to come back into play, actually all of the types of love later on. So let's move on to the next category. From eros to philos, or philia. Philos is the masculine and philia is the feminine. So philos refers to affectionate regard and friendship, usually between equals. It's the love that arises from mutual respect, shared experiences, and common values. Familia love, right? This is the philos. Philos embodies the principle of brotherhood and community. In spiritual circles, it represents the interconnectedness of all beings and the importance of relationships in personal growth. This form of love encourages compassion, empathy, and understanding. It fosters a sense of unity and collective consciousness, reminding individuals that they are part of a larger whole. So the philos is the greater unity of affection and love, knowing that we are one family on this planet, that we are interconnected. The universal life force runs through all life, through everything, and we are connected to this. What we do and how we influence on a day-to-day basis, our actions, our thoughts, our emotions, it all influences our surrounding environment, thus the totality of the collective family. Philos is what you have for your brothers and your sisters, what we call friends in the modern day, right? There's a dark side to each types of, or not a dark side, I would say a misconstrued or an inversion and a perversion to these types of love. When you think of philos in the modern age, what characteristics or principles derive as the foundation of the connection? So I'm talking about the condition and quality of that philos, that philia, or eros, or, let's go to the next one, agape. Some people pronounce it agape. I pronounce it agape. I think that's how it would actually be pronunciated in the Greek language. So agape is the highest form of love. It's the love that is given without expectation of return, often associated with divine love or the love for humanity as a whole. What is called true love. Agape is seen as the purest form of love, the ultimate expression of the divine within us. It's the embodiment of spiritual enlightenment and the realization of oneness with all that exists. Agape means love that comes from a higher state of consciousness. Agape is love for all beings. The desire for all beings to be free from suffering, be free to express themselves. Agape is universal love. It is expressed as the love of truth, morality, and freedom themselves, right? To embody that agape love, that highest form of love, you are not only embodying eros, philos, right? You are embodying the principles of truth and morality and freedom as well. This is what I consider true love. It's all encompassing, it's all encapsulating, right? So let's see, we're going to dive deeper. What's up, Daryl? Thanks for joining. Chris, Logan, Dead and Drumming. Appreciate you all. Now, the next category that I'm going to dive into is it relates to all this, and it's vital to understand. And this is also a, a natural law principle, the principle of polarity. Polarity is a vast category and topic, right? And it can go many directions. But when it comes to love itself, it is crucial to understand. And it also has a subcategory that is interconnected with this that must be understood as well. So what is polarity? Well, the Kybalion, which is a great beginner, a great primer to understand the Hermetic principles, the natural law principles, it obviously, it doesn't stop there. You can expand. There are other great works, and of course, observation and the animist mindset of observing nature and observing the laws of nature in effect within the external environment and internal ecology as well is the greatest teacher. Right? But the Kybalion is fantastic. I highly recommend people dive into this. It states on polarity that everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All paradoxes may be reconciled. Right? It has another line in there as well saying all truths are but half truths. There's occult language that is encoded in there. What that is talking about is subjective truth, relative truth, perception, right? It clarifies that statement by saying that all paradoxes may be reconciled. All right? So, in polarity is essential for balance and harmony in the universe. The interaction of these polarities generates life and facilitates evolution on both physical and spiritual levels. Understanding and integrating polarities within oneself leads to wholeness or healing as well, right? Healing means wholeness, to become whole. This concept is central to practices like Taoism with the yin and the yang, and Hermeticism with the principle of polarity, emphasizing that opposites are interconnected and interdependent. They are dual, and yet there's also a non-dual capacity there as well. So a category that's also considered a natural law principle, but it goes hand in hand with polarity because we are talking about poles, right? So you have light and dark, hot and cold. At what point can you say it is hot, that it moves into the polarity of hot? It's a spectrum. It's a gradient, like many things. A lot of people get stuck in the black and white thinking, right? There is a gradient, but there is also absolutes as well. There is dualism and non-dualism, macro and micro. We can use these terms and these phrases to gather a deeper and a better understanding, right? But don't get hung up on the actual words themselves. It's the understanding of the concept and how that can be utilized. So the next category is gender, right? So gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. In the physical plane, it generates as male and female. We see this through many kingdoms as well, right? There is also the spiritual planes or the mental plane where the masculine and feminine characteristics and attributes of energy, of mind, apply as well. Mental gender is the state of coexistence between masculine and feminine aspects of the human mind. Our left brain hemisphere largely facilitates the masculine aspect of the mind, or intellect, logic, analytical, and linear thought processes, while the right brain hemisphere largely facilitates the feminine aspects, or intuition, creative, compassionate, holistic thought processes. Largely facilitates, not all, right? Again, there's a gradient, there's a mixture. We do have both. The question is that we are going to dive into in a little bit, what does balance mean, right? We're going to explain this. So let's look at a little bit more in depth of the masculine and feminines, right? So we have the masculine energy and the feminine energy. Masculine energy of doing. It is logic, reason, it is action, it is active, problem solving, rationality, strength, control. It's goal orientation, competition, it's directness, it's linear thinking, right? This is all attributes of masculine energy. Then on the opposite polarity, we have feminine energy, which feminine energy is beingness. It is intuition, receptivity, vulnerability, sensitivity, grace, letting go, creativity, cooperation. It's subtle, circular thinking, right? These are the two aspects and attributes of the masculine and feminine energy. When we incarnate in reality, I obviously incarnated as a male being. I am the masculine embodiment of the masculine principle. That does not negate that there is the feminine attribute to me as well, right? The mental energy that is within my very being as well. So this goes on both male and female. I'm not saying you could switch. No, I'm saying that there must be a balance in mind, in heart, and in action as well, within your very being, whether you're male or masculine. What does that mean? So, this slide, I did not make this slide. I found it on the interwebs, the etherwebs. It's fantastic. I think it does a great job at expressing what I'm trying to convey. So I decided to use it. Shout out to whoever made it. So what does healthy feminine and masculine energy embodied in an individual, what does it look like? Well, we're going to use the Tao, which is a great symbol for masculine and feminine and male and female, right? So we have the yin, which is feminine energy, moving on the bottom. If you look at the Tao as a circular motion, the symbol is in rotation. It is moving, and it is in balance right now, right? So you can see this symbol as just balance in general, harmony. So healthy feminine energy is open, it's patient, caring, and wise, flexible, and compassionate. Healthy feminine energy contains within it a little bit of masculine energy. A dot of masculine energy balances the feminine energy. It gives it a little bit of more of structure and focus. Now, it's obviously not a 50-50 split. It is more like, I don't know, 90-10, 80-20. I'll go with the 80-20, right? Use the 8 and the 2. So when you're balanced in the 8 and the 2, the 80-20, that is balanced. It's not 50-50. Important to know. Masculine energy, healthy masculine energy, is focused, disciplined, active, has a purpose, has a vision. It contains within it a bit of feminine energy. A dot of feminine energy softens it and deepens it a bit and makes it a little more wiser, compassionate, creative. So why am I showing this is because I would say the majority of individuals are not in a healthy balance within their own self, in their polarity, right? What does unhealthy feminine and masculine energy look like? So, feminine energy that is completely absent of masculine energy becomes stagnant, formless. It needs obviously the little dot to keep it moving, to keep it active. Without that dot, it can become lazy, unfocused, depressed, over nurturing, mothering, right? And unmotivated. With the masculine, unhealthy masculine energy that is completely absent of the feminine energy can become destructive. It needs the little dot to give it heart and give it depth. So without that little dose of feminine energy, you have aggressive, narrow-minded, cold, and frustrated. When you observe society, there's obviously a misdirection and an inversion going on. Not only is someone lacking that dot, that polarity of the masculine and feminine within themselves, there is an inversion, meaning the feminine is becoming, the dot is becoming the whole being itself. The feminine is becoming the masculine is becoming the feminine, meaning women are becoming masculinized and men are becoming feminized, right? This is a huge imbalance. This would be an extreme, a radical imbalance. So, why does this matter and why does this have to do with love? Because relationships, everything in reality, in nature, in your life has to do with relationships, right? A relationship is your relation to. The question is what, right? In relation to what? Everything is, we are all interconnected. We have a relationship. I have a relationship with my computer. I have a relationship with this streaming platform that I've just tried and I'm getting to know. I have a relationship with my neighbors, with my community, with my daughter, etc., etc. The eros, the philos, the agape, the polarity itself, nature. So keep that in mind. Oops. Relationships in the natural world, everything is intricately interconnected and dependent on relationships. From the smallest microorganisms to the grandest ecosystems, life thrives through symbiotic connections and interdependence. Plants rely on sunlight, water, and soil nutrients for growth, while animals depend on plants for food and shelter. Even non-living elements, such as weather patterns and geological formations, influence and are influenced by living organisms. Recognizing the fundamental role of relationships in nature highlights the interconnected web of life, emphasizing the importance of cooperation, adaptation, and mutual respect for the flourishing of all beings. This is why understanding what love is, the type of loves, and understanding polarity and understanding your relationship to those is vital. Not only so you have an accurate perception of where you are at, but obviously where you want to be, where you are going, and what you need to do or be, right? So let's get into a lot of comments going in there. I appreciate all the engagements. At the end, I will absolutely take some questions and we'll get some, anybody that wants to join can hop on as well. I like to do that at the end of my presentations. So to understand the self more and understand relationships before we kind of, state an actual problem, let's talk about consciousness itself. So the expressions of consciousness, we have body and spirit, right? You can also masculine and feminine, thoughts, emotions, and action. Thoughts, masculine, active, emotions are receptive, the feminine, they come together, they create action. A male child, the active principle as well, right? So that's obviously the alchemical marriage, the sacred union. We have this. The expressions of consciousness are important because, well, first, the recognizable workings of natural law, which is the laws of creation, the governing dynamics of reality, in human life take place through 5 basic expressions. Each of these 5 expressions have a positive and negative aspect, giving us a total of 10 overall natural law expressions. So the natural law expressions, we're going to go through this chart, and we understand that we have the generative polarity. This is the starting point. This is the state that you are in, the 0 point. This is what we use to create. It is the energy, it is the love that we have within ourselves, the generating force, right? So from there, we have the initial expression, how it starts in mind. Then we have the internal expression, the emotions, what happens inside of us. And then we have the external expression, which is our behavior, our actions, what happens in society. And then from there, we have the generated result, what we call manifestation. So that's the result that we create. So in a positive, in the love polarity, in that agape, the love for truth, morality, and freedom, we are in that consciousness where it is unified, thoughts, emotions, and actions, right? From there, that is the starting point. Then we can generate what? We can generate the initial expression of knowledge. You are open-minded. You have that teachability where you are willing to learn. You are open to new information. You are open to take in knowledge. From there, and that acceptance of truth, from there you move into the internal expression, that emotion that we feel inside of having that knowledge, and that is sovereignty, because you are knowing yourself. You are understanding truth. From there, your behaviors will be in alignment with truth once you act on them, which creates freedom. The generated result, of course, is order, in harmony with natural law, in harmony with the rhythm of life, right? You're in a healthy relationship. The negative aspect, of course, is fear, is being unconscious. From that generative polarity of fear. If you are in fear, you are scared, you are in the refusal of information, which is ignorance, that initial expression. Of course, you're not going to have the means and the modes and that knowledge, that information to understand A, what's going on within yourself, B, what's going on in your environment, in the world. You're going to have a state of confusion, which of course your behavior is not going to be in alignment with natural law, with truth, with morality. You are going to seek control, external control, because you are not in control of yourself. You do not have that state of sovereignty, self-governance. And when you are seeking external control, that only leads to one thing: chaos, duress, coercion, and manifested evil, which evil is to live backwards, to live in opposition of natural law, of truth, of morality. So this is a chart that needs to be applied to an individual, because if the social engineers want to obviously influence society for their agenda, they are obviously going to implement and convey incorrect information on what love is, what the self is, what consciousness is, what all of these important topics are, because of course it keeps people in ignorance. Therefore, that internal contradiction and internal confusion thus leads to external control. And when someone seeks external control, why do you think government is in power? So many people support government or support these institutions or support the secular religions. They're looking for that arbiter of truth to speak within them, to speak into them on what truth is, should be. Right? The divine doesn't need to operate that way. It just is. And it is there for us to discover and harmonize with. So, unity consciousness. When someone is in balance, a balanced polarity within themselves, not only in the mental gender polarity, also the aspects of consciousness, they all move together in harmony, right? There's no such thing as being awake and aware and in unity consciousness, but physically imbalanced, or imbalanced on the masculine and feminine side. It's all one unit. It operates as one thing. So unity consciousness is in balance with polarity. And that is, as I think, so I feel, and so I act. Right? The love polarity, the 0 point of where it starts. Your mind, your thoughts instruct. Your emotions direct. Your behavior constructs, influences reality. So thoughts, the mind, are the cause for action. Emotion is a frequency compass that amplifies the initiation of action. A frequency compass, compassion, that amplifies the initiation of action, right? It directs. And of course, action is act ion, to preform energy externally. Action is the manifested effect in the physical external realm. So unity consciousness is balance of thoughts, emotions, and actions. When we look at society, if we observe the current human condition, where is the majority of people? You can't really say people are waking up, right? Because to be waking, to be aware and aware of what is going on, you must have causal factors. And not only must you understand the causal factors of why we are in this condition, you must convey them. Right? To know and not do is to really not know. Because if you know and you are aware of what is truly going on and why it is going on, but you are not acting on that, you are not in balance. You are in a state of imbalance, right? It is up to you to understand where that imbalance derives from, the masculine or the feminine imbalance, which is hindering your thoughts, emotions, and actions. This is the process of self-discovery, the continuing process of self-discovery. So looking at society, we can ask ourselves, What is the majority of people's motivation? Are they in fear, which is the contradiction of, not contradiction, it's the contraction of consciousness, the closing up, the absence of love. It leads to cowardice and inaction. And of course, the force of involution, which is the breaking down, and stagnation. Is society getting better? Is it moving towards true freedom? Are the control structures breaking down, and are individuals understanding their own sovereignty and empowerment and speaking out on that and coming together in true philos, agape, which is true love, the expansion of consciousness, the absence of fear? It leads to courage and right action. It is evolution and growth. Which one are we in? Fear, love? Obviously, the majority of society is still stuck in that fear-based. The majority. There are many people that recognize the signs and symbols of, that there are issues going on in the world, but they lack knowledge, right? Going back to that chart, they lack knowledge, which keeps them in a state of ignorance and internal confusion. So, everything is based on relationships. Ask yourself, what is your relationship to truth, yourself, morality, family, community, freedom, nature, solutions, right? You need to understand your 0 point on where you are at currently in your polarity, in your imbalances or your balances. And first of all, just because you are in balance doesn't mean that is like that. You can become imbalanced the next day. It is a process. It is an ongoing journey of remaining in a balanced state. And in this day and age, with physical attacks, emotional attacks, psychic attacks, chemical attacks, the warfare is strong. Like, we are in a war, so keep that in mind, right? There is no perfection in this reality. But still, the courage and the attempt to improve and better yourself remains on the table and is vital and is a must, right? So we need to ask ourselves these hard questions. Our relationship to these things, to principles, to solutions, where am I going to get involved, etc. My relationship to my kids, all of these important topics. And in the line of relationships, let me take a sip real quick. I want to show kind of how a balanced relationship with the eros and the philos and the agape, how that kind of plays out. In the title card, you see that I used a triangle for the science of love, right? The love triangle. That's going to come into play, and I'm going to explain why, number one, the geometry of a triangle is the most stable shape, right? It is a perfect geometrical shape as well. So there's a lot to be said there with that shape, that frequency, its meaning, its symbolism as well. And it has 3 points. This is why the Pythagoreans had so much veneration for the triangle, the isosceles triangle, etc., right? And this very much is related to relationships and love. So here we go. We have a female, a woman, and a male. And then I'm using the light as source, as creation. Oops, there we go. Nature, God. I'm not talking about the culture, religion, religious gods that are in books or conveyed by human beings, right? I'm talking about the supreme creator, the supreme mind, right? Source, truth, principles, morality. We have the individual bond. This is the individual that does the work within themselves, right? That relationship with self, with source, truth, principles, and morality has to be first. Before these two come together, it's regardless of its eros, romantic relationship, philos, brotherly or community, or even agape, right? It must be done first. The individual, that relationship with creation, nature, principles, morality, and truth must be done first within someone. Then, of course, the eros and the philos come together to form the genuine relationship, right? There's the love triangle. Both have done that internal work and have developed the relationship with morality, with first principles, with nature, with truth, understanding what unity consciousness is. They do that on the individual level, then they come together. Now imagine this. Imagine, let's say the eros, the romantic relationships. If a man and a woman, right, this is what conscious conception is. When a man and a woman understand first principles of morality, they understand their own sovereignty and they understand rights and what freedom truly is. They have that deep connection within themselves. They are in balance. Then they come together to conceive the child. They have that divine union. What do you think that child, what's the impact of that on that child when two individuals that have that healthy, balanced relationship come together, right? Of course, it's going to be profound on the child, on the fractal of that divine love triangle that was created. That is evolution. That's how we raise consciousness. What do we have now? We do not have that relationship with the majority of people, right? In fact, the creator, God, nature has been replaced with government, religions, scientism, other cults like atheism, money, right? All these other religions that are holding people back, materialism, solipsism, where someone would put the self up there as well, right? So that relationship, it is inverted. It's perverted, right? The perversion is going on. It's not in balance. Then, of course, two people come together and have a kid and they progress, they propagate the confusion, the internal contradictions, etc. Right? Our children are a fractalization of us, of our state. So that's important to know. A genuine relationship, right? When let me use this. When you go to like a freedom event where the majority of people there understand do no harm, take no shit, they understand what rights truly are, they understand that there is a governing dynamic, a divine intelligence in reality that interacts with us called natural law. When you understand, when you meet people that understand that, there is a bond that is formed almost immediately. We call it like-minded individuals, but what's the quality and condition of the like mind? We know that that individual understands and is developing this relationship with truth, morality, and first principles, right? It makes the connection strong. Same if when a man meets a woman or a woman meets a man that is imbalanced within the masculine and feminine, right? And within first principles. It has a profound effect. So not only do the social engineers know this, this is a prime directive of theirs to implement and invert and infiltrate the minds of many individuals. And this is why they invest so much money. Every category of society ultimately plays into this. This is the inversion of control. And why does it work so well? Because of epigenetics. Let's start here, right? So epigenetics, Greek, epi means beyond or to further than, and the Latin verb generare meaning to make or to create. So epigenetics is an occulted branch of science that acknowledges consciousness as a factor to affect gene expression and cellular function, ultimately shaping the biological, emotional, and psychological development of human life and society. Gene expression can be activated or deactivated by thought, which can also be influenced from the environment. The social engineers know that by influencing humanity with false information and dialectics, they can indirectly manipulate the progression of human development. They can indirectly manipulate the progression of human development. And I would say directly as well through chemical means. Just look what's been going on the last 4 or 5 years. Why do you think the education to the youth is all about inversion? Masculine and feminine inversion. There's a reason why the chemical warfare within men and women is so profound, right? I mean, with men, testosterone's at an ultimate level. Fertility is at an ultimate low. There's a reason for all of this, right? To create that imbalance, not only on the physical, biological level, in the mental, psychological level, right? The psychic. You disrupt those, you disrupt the amplification, the emotional stability as well. This is why so many people are so emotionally reactive. They're out of balance, and it is for a purpose, right? So this topic right here of epigenetics, we'll see how my platforms do, but every time I talk about this subject, I get, a strike, I get something taken down. It's kind of a big censored topic for me. So, but regardless, here we are, and here I speak. So, corrupt love. This is the distortion or imitation of genuine love, often driven by selfishness, manipulation, or exploitation. Instead of fostering harmony and moral alignment with nature, corrupt love disrupts balance and promotes separation, control, or harm. In contrast to true love's guiding principle of compassion and unity, corrupt love erodes trust and hinders personal and collective well-being. This profound paragraph, right? There's a lot in here. The majority of people are in that imbalanced polarity. They are in corrupt love, corroding at their very being, at their essence, right? It erodes trust and hinders personal and collective well-being, accountability, responsibility, your ability to respond. But yet, It still enforces trust, and it enforces compassion, forgiveness within the control system, right? Interesting that it does that. That people still think that, you know, the public, the majority of people, still supporting government, still supporting these institutions. It's because they are in an abusive relationship. All of humanity is in a self-induced abusive relationship with immoral constructs, such as the belief in human authority. This is generated from the fear and ignorance, which leads to violent control structures such as government and various religions that express violence, duress, coercion, and opposition to true moral love. Agape. These abusers express narcissism at the highest degree, which mirrors the internal lack of true love within the majority of individuals. Can you not see it? Government acts and operates exactly like a narcissist in an abusive relationship, right? The victim that is performing, that is self-induced, right? Because that victim is in the generative polarity of fear. They stay in the relationship, right? They are closed down to begin with, keeps them in ignorance. They cannot see the cause. They cannot see the effect. They cannot see that their own codependence is prolonging and promoting the relationship. They are in that state of internal confusion, so they seek external control, right? They stay in the relationship. Government does the same thing to the public. Lies, cheats, controls, violates, kills, murders, rapes, pillages, all this kind of shit. It is a narcissistic relationship. And yet the people still go, well, we just need this type of government. We need that type of government. Oh, this person in government, he'll be a way better relationship for us, right? They don't understand the aspects of mind, emotion, and action that make up the concept of government. These are human beings that are in these positions with a certain state of mind, thinking that they can control people. Those are the people that are in government. Those are the people that are in the financial industries, the fiat industries. Those are the people who are in scientism, right? That want to perform needlecraft on your children and on you yourself. And still, people still get 10, 15 of those fuckers, and they still go, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the other people telling me maybe I shouldn't get that because they don't get the needlecraft. Right? Right? It erodes trust. Erodes trust in other individuals, in the majority of individuals of the collective. Internal confusion. There is no clarity there for people. So, love is love, right? It's all good. Love is love. No. The phrase love is propagated as unconditional love in the guise of love that is given without conditions, boundaries, or judgments. This is an obfuscation of love to corrupt someone into a moral relativist and solipsistic mindset. We've seen this phrase, right, propagated throughout social constructs. Love is love. No, that is incorrect. but it does raise the question of what is unconditional love? Do we have unconditional love in reality? And I answer that absolutely not. Unconditional love does not exist in this reality because natural law is the conditions by which we operate under at all times. Immutable, binding, universal, right? Unconditional love doesn't mean we can do whatever we want. I mean, that's what it means. That's how it's being propagated. I would say, however, there has been one act of pure unconditional love, and that is existence itself. Creation, or the creator, however you want to kind of call it, fractalize itself, to experience itself, it created existence. That was an act of unconditional love, in my opinion, right? In my opinion. But in this reality, in our reality, our shared reality, unconditional love does not exist, right? A parent's love, right? Do I have unconditional love for my daughter? No, I don't. Because, one, I set the example of what respect, morality is, right? For my child. And I expect her to have those same attributes, to understand the difference between right and wrong, to have courage, to have the balanced aspects of polarity, to strive for those, right? When you are in a state of thinking unconditional love exists, or applying it, or attaching it to someone, what you are doing is letting that person potentially run all over you and violate you on all levels and degrees, right? And this is what humanity is stuck in. They are stuck in the state of believing love is love. Believing unconditional love is all that matters. It's the solution. Tolerance, tolerance, tolerance. That's complete cowardice. That is such an imbalance it's a perversion of both the masculine and the feminine, right? When we look at the males, the masculine um, males in the world, right? And how feminine they are, how neutered they are, declawed and defanged, right? Majority of them embody this phrase of love is love. They embody unconditional love, and they are a direct example of dysgenics. This is where all this goes, right? The inversion of control. Why they want incorrect information out there in misdirection. They want it so that you do not have the relationship with creation. Therefore, when you come together in the creative force of eros to have children, you're propagating something, a certain type of person. This is dysgenics. So if epigenetics can contribute to dysgenics, let me do full slide. Dysgenics influences by altering gene expression in response to environmental or psychological factors, including beliefs. These epigenetic changes passed down through generations can negatively affect traits such as health, cognition, or behavior if they diminish overall adaptability or well-being. Consequently, dysgenics is not limited to direct genetic inheritance. It also encompasses how external forces can switch on or off certain genes, potentially leading to detrimental effects over time. Does that sound familiar? What's going on in the world? 100%. Damaging the hardware. You damage the hardware, the body, the physical, the mind will not operate, right? And it will not be able to convey the signal of source of what is going on in through the ethers, in environment, right? In our surroundings. You won't have that higher awareness that can reveal choice. You're being funneled. You're being constricted. You're being put in a box. And same as, the inverse. Incorrect information in the mind can also lead to an imbalance of physicality and emotions. So dysgenics this is the pathway to, what people call transhumanism, right? 100%, 100%. So I want to get into, kind of winding it down, getting into the last category of what love really is, right? Let's break it down. The labor of love. Lost love. The lost principle. Many mystery traditions call this the lost principle. It is the dynamic of care. What we care about on a day-to-day basis acts as the driving force of our thoughts and actions. Therefore, care can be seen as the ultimate generator of the quality of our experience. This principle has been often been referred to as the generative principle. The word generative is derived from the Latin verb generare, which means to create. The generative principle, lost love. What we care about to put our will behind is ultimately what gets created in our world. The world is the way that it is because most people do not care enough, even if they say they want things to be different, to change it through their actions. If you can sum up from the aspects that we have talked about already, love itself is care. It is the generative principle. What are you putting your care to? That will be the quality of your relationship, whether it's to your kids, it's to truth, principles, morality, the fuckery that's going on in the world, right? And the solution that one can implement. It is care. The generating principle, the generating factor. Oops. So self-love, right? Self-love, you are the 0 point by which your internal ecology stands. By balancing polarity and aligning with the laws of nature, the conditions of your behaviors will be of true love and care. The agape, right? Embodying truth, moral principles, understanding what true freedom is, and then caring enough to act on that. You care about those things. Self-love is true self-respect, right? You are looking again at yourself. You are having the care for yourself, the care to be better, the care to be moral. So you have to ask yourself, what are you giving your energy to? What do you truly care about? If care is the generative principle, right, this is the life force, the energy that is the driving force behind actions. It's also the driving force behind life itself, that creative force, that eros, that vital force that wants to expand. When the mind and the heart are in alignment, and not in contradiction. This is unity consciousness. The true will and true care, masculine and feminine, male and female, come together, unity consciousness. So ultimately, love is action. In essence, love can be defined as the ultimate unifying force that permeates all levels of reality. It is both the path and the destination. At a transformative power that guides individuals towards deeper self-awareness, authentic connections with others, and an intimate relationship with the cosmos. Love is the awakening to our true nature as interconnected beings, embodying the divine within and recognizing it in everything around us. When I said in the beginning of this presentation, show me a mother's love, show me a father's love, point out your love for food, point out your love for truth, right? Show it to me, prove it. How do you do that? Love is not a noun. It is not a person, place, or thing. You can't point to it. It's not tangible. You can't say it's here, it's right there. It is a force. You prove it through your actions by becoming love. I love my daughter not because I say so, not because I buy her a whole bunch of gifts. Look at all the gifts I bought her. That's how much I love her, which is what the majority of people stuck in materialism, that's what they do, right? They think that, material possessions equate to love. Nice car, nice house, all that kind of stuff, right? I'm talking about the imbalance of materialism as a religion. Love is who you are at the deepest levels, who you are becoming, right? You prove that through your deeds, your actions. That's what love is. With the eros, a romantic love, right? It's not about how cuddly or smoochy you are in public, right? You know when your partner loves you. You know it because they show it. They prove it. They have embodied those principles, that force of love, right? All across the boards. The philos as well, brotherly, community, etc. It's proven through actions. Oops. Love is the law. Just as natural law itself is ultimately an expression of creation's love, the alignment of one's personal will to creation's will to align with and serve natural law is an act of love born out of higher consciousness. This form of universal love is actually the very foundational basis of law in the cosmos. That is agape love. That higher form of love, of consciousness, for consciousness itself, for doing what is right, truth, justice, morality. When in service to the truth, you're also in service to others and to the self. Right? That's what natural law. Love is the law. It is the foundational force that we need to align with and embody ourselves. So evolution, the force of love is in you, right? Like Star Wars, the force is in you. Evolution, we want to grow, we want to progress, we want to expand, right? We want our children to grow in a world where they can freely express themselves, not be hindered, coerced, under duress, etc. So it's all about, what do you care? Do you care enough to take action in the world against the injustices of what is going on? So to evolve means you have to get involved. The force of love is in with you. It starts with that generative polarity, right? Asking ourselves where we are at now and our relationship with that is the starting point. Then we move forward. So the science of love. The science of love, right, is the love triangle, is your relationship to natural law, morality, and freedom. Your relationship to the world, community, your brothers and sisters, your relatives, are of all species, of all beings, right? Our relationship to that, and what are we going to do about it? So the science to know love, to know the force of creation, to know eros, philos, agape, to know natural law and embody that and prove it ourselves. That's what true love is, and that's what it means to be in love. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. That is my presentation. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to go through the comments, and I'll get the link in there. And if anybody wants to come and join me, and be respectful, of course, and I don't mind pushback. Let's expand and talk about some of the topics that I touched in. Hopefully, I conveyed the message. Of course, this can go, it can go so deep, and it's a big topic, but understanding, simplifying the profound on the message. Hopefully I conveyed that at a satisfactory rate. So thanks, appreciate. Let me go. If anybody has any questions, there's tons of comments, tons. It's hard to scroll through all of them, but and there's lots of too many comments. So if you guys have questions, please put them in the chat right now. I'll take those, and I'm actually going to play a brand new song that my brother John Rowland, the other half of Natural Freedom League, created. And it's about winter solstice. I'm going to play that so I can get some more water and take a wiki leak. I'll put the link in the chat for anybody to join. Let me see here. Invite guests. Oops. Okay. Actually, let me get that song queued up real quick. The streaming platform, it's great. It's got a lot more than like StreamYard or Restream to it. So it can be a little overwhelming. There we go. Share video. Perfect. So this song, my brother created. He used an AI program as well. It just shows you kind of the power and the utility of AI. And this is about winter solstice, which we are officially in right now. This is called Put Something Good in the Air. You guys enjoy this. I'm going to grab some water and do a little wiki leak real quick. Stay tuned. We're going to do questions and chat.
Put something good in the air. Put something good in the air. On December's breeze, let love take flight. Through the darkest days, we'll share the light. From December 7th to the solstice sky, we breathe in hope, let the spirit rise. Put something good in the air. Feel the love, it's everywhere. Inhale the light, exhale despair. Together we rise, a world to repair. The season calls, let the spirit flow. In every heart, let the goodness grow. Through words and deeds, let courage shine. Transmute the pain, divine design. Put something good in the air. Feel the love, it's everywhere. Inhale the light, exhale despair. Together we rise, a world to repair. It's a season of healing, a season of grace. Let's lift each other, every soul, every face. Holy Spirit season, we answer the call. The source is within us, it's here for us all. Put something good in the air. Feel the love, it's everywhere. Inhale the light, exhale despair. Together we rise, a world to repair. Put something good in the air. Feel the love, it's everywhere. Inhale the light, exhale despair. Together we rise, a world to repair. From the seventh to the solstice, let the spirit flow. In the heart of the season, let the Holy Spirit glow. Put something good in the aim, a season of grace. Let's lift each other, every soul, every face. Holy Spirit season, we answer the call. The source is within us, it's here for us all. From the 7th to the solstice, let the spirit flow. In the heart of the season, let the Holy Spirit glow.
Beautiful track. Love it. Well done, John, my brother. Good job. All right, we got Sarah on here. I saw Logan popped on for a sec. Maybe he'll come back on. Oh, there he is. Hey, Sarah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, how's it going?
Pretty good. I was trying to reduce the noise a little bit, but I think whatever these headphones do, they're like magic headphones and you can't ever hear anything outside of the mic. I'm like, I don't know what it is.
Yeah. What's up, Logan? Good seeing you, brother.
Hey, man.
Coming through clear, right on. So what do you guys
Sweet.
what do you guys got? You guys want to add something? How did you think of the presentation? How did it flow? and then comments on just the information in general or add to it. Sarah, you want to go
I
first?
I
A
thought it
stellar,
was awesome.
stellar job as always.
Thank you. Appreciate that. It's a huge topic, and that it can go so many ways. But it's good to kind of get the basics under the belt of what love is, what does that mean, and what does that mean for people in society. So
I thought it was
Yeah, I
awesome.
mean, I think there's a lot of different ideas about the word love, and I mean, it's like a Hallmark card thing, right? Love is all you need. Love can save the world, but what do people really mean when they say that? What conceptual ideas are they attaching to that word?
yes, yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Well, that's why it's thrown around so much. It's like a filler word nowadays, right?
mhm.
It's just like a basic adjective. They just throw it around. But the word love, in my research in many mystery traditions, it carried weight, right? It wasn't a word that would get thrown around. This is why they had many different types of forms of the expression of that information of what that meant. And it was used, correctly versus just one word that has kind of, that can be used for anything.
Yeah, I would agree. It's just kind of thrown around, and people just say it now automatically. And I think there's a lot of I don't know if it is in the realm of a social engineering case. It probably is to some degree, but it's become very like empty in a way in the modern use of it, where people just say it automatically because they're related to somebody or they've been friends with somebody for like, since childhood. Oh, I love this person. I love that person. But really, they're not connected to that person at all. So it's like there's no real connection. It's just because of some sort of societal obligation to do so, despite despite people's behavior. So, it's like saying, "Oh, I'll love you no matter what," only, even if you do all these horrible things, and I'm just going to forgive you and forget it. When there's one thing to say, I love all of humanity. I do, of course. But, there's conditions to that. Like, I'm going to check behavior when it's appropriate. So I think it's important to really understand it very clearly, and don't let yourself being taken advantage of. I think you're muted, Will.
Oh, Logan, did you want to add to that? But I agree with you, Sarah.
Sure. Um, yeah. Again, it, the social engineers understand that they can't fabricate everything from pure lies and mistruth. I mean, love is a very real force, and it's something I think is very innate to human beings in how we operate, and so you can't just eradicate that completely. So the best they can do is distort and twist the relationship people have to that word, the ideas that they have behind that word. And so oftentimes when it's used, it's very superficially. And even I was thinking about things like addiction too. An addict loves their drug or whatever their vice is,
Mm,
but that's not an authentic form of love, even though we use the same word for it, right?
good point. That's
Yeah.
why I think that word love needs to be replaced with care. So it's like, what do you care about? What do you love? And then obviously shown in action and behavior. I think all living All humans have the capacity of love. They have love. It's just a question of what is that generating? What is the quality? The social engineers, the dark occultists, right? They have care. They have care for their agenda, and they're accomplishing that. It's like, why are they accomplishing that? They are acting in one accord. They're in that unified space. You could call it dark care for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, every action that any being takes is an expression of what they care about. That's the only reason anyone or anything does anything. They're most of the time they're trying to meet some kind of need of theirs. But I think a good way to sort of quantify whether something is coming from true care or a sort of a vice or a desire to control or something, a lower form of it, is it love or is it care at the expense of something else, including yourself? So taking it back to the addiction perspective, it, if they love that thing, they may care for that thing or that activity or whatever, but at the expense of themselves. The more they do it, the more they're destroying themselves. Things of true love and true care are good for all. It's good for you. It's good for everyone. It's mutually beneficial. It's not a zero sum game.
Yeah, I want to put this up here. Evolve yourself. As I'm going through all these comments, looking for questions. So it says humanity has run its course. No more breeding. We need to focus on helping what's already here and suffering. I want to get your guys' thoughts. I have my own thoughts, of course, on this statement. Um, and so, yeah, if anyone,
Hmm. Yeah. I would agree certainly with the last part of this. We do need to I think it would be prudent, I think is the word I want to use, to put a little bit more focus on um, helping and figuring out what's already here and alleviating that problem. Just because if you do that, it's like a disease. Like, I mean, I consider the main problem the parasite class, and I consider it to be a disease, and it needs to be eradicated from the living organism that we live on and from ourselves, but that's kind of a broader viewpoint there. But as far as like, humanity goes, I do think it would be prudent to maybe focus on what we already do have here and dealing with, alleviating the pain and the suffering so that people can actually heal and then grow and maybe take in more of this kind of information in a bit of a healthier way. I wouldn't agree with the no more breeding, because when you stop actually producing life eventually comes to an end that way. So I don't think having children and having a family and raising life is part of that problem, because every time we do create a new generation, or a new generation of life, I should say, that is a new opportunity to advance, you know, with our knowledge and teach the ones that come after us what we know. So that only helps to for our, this cause and this kind of work. So yeah, that's what I think.
yeah,
Yep,
excellent.
perfectly said.
Yeah, nailed it. I think that here's a few more that I'm going to add. I think that there's a big agenda. It's almost like a self-induced agenda where we get down on ourselves, right? So observing the current state of humanity, right? Is it likely in my lifetime we're going to see this huge um, positive impact? It's not likely, right? It's not likely as of now. but can and will are two separate things. So if we apply our will, then absolutely we can see change. But the agenda or the misdirection I think people get is doing what I just said, putting the we in there. If we, get it together, start to focus on the what can I do, because regardless, your karma and the energy that you put forth is going to carry with you to the next life. Like, I'm not doing this work because it's fun or I want attention. I have recognized it's the right thing to do, so I'll do it till I'm an old man. Not to mention creating a digital record for my daughter. When I leave, she has this as well. So it's my point being, it's more about accepting where you're at in the here and now, and what are you going to do to contribute that energy. Because just saying there's nothing we can do about it, it's done and over, you are contributing your energy to what? To the problem. So it's really about kind of um, consolidating one's own thoughts and goals, in my opinion.
Hmm. Yeah, I love how you put the emphasis on love as a verb, love as an action,
Yes.
because like to what you're saying there, love itself is a force. It's an energy. So something like that has a beingness to it, but energy wants to flow. It wants to be expressed, and then on the embodied level, you look at the trivium. You know, the action phase is the end of the line. So if you say one thing, I care about this, but it's not making it through that chain of events to the action phase, then there's something amiss further up the line, further upstream in that trivium process. Either you don't have enough knowledge or enough care to activate, because it's just a science, right?
Yes.
And I would just add really quick, as just to go with Logan talking about the addiction, the love type of addiction, that people get. And with this, sometimes like an act of love is actually something that is perceived as something really negative. Like, I mean, I can't think of an example, but like sometimes things that we do is an act of love, and it doesn't seem like it's like the other person, like say it's a child, and you've grounded that child because they threw a stone at another child. And you grounded that
Right.
child to their room and took away all their favorite things or whatever. But this is an act of love. I don't know if you can hear that. Sorry. I have like a biker across the street.
Uh,
Um,
I thought it was Logan driving.
I'll close the window in a minute. But this is like one of those kinds of acts of love to show that it's like long term effects, that child eventually will understand the lesson you're trying to impart on them, that you can't just throw stones at other people. And there's a consequence to throwing stones at other people. And so sometimes I feel like people think that things have to be immediate with what happens, but really most of the things that happen have a long-term effect that you don't understand is what happened. And that's an act of love. I would consider that just as much of an act of love.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So
That's a very
Yep.
big and important thing you're touching on there, Sarah. I'm glad you brought that up, because yeah, there are many ways where love doesn't always appear as something so warm and fuzzy as everybody likes to think of it as. But, someone, say, like unaliving somebody that is entering your home because you want to protect your family, that's a really brutal, heavy thing. But it was an act of love because you were restoring peace with that action. Or like cutting a family member out of your life because they're abusive, for example. Like the narcissist would want to gaslight you and say, "I thought you loved me. That's not love. You're just thinking about yourself." And it's like, yeah, including yourself in the equation is a big part of love. It's an act of love towards yourself, having healthy boundaries. If a relationship is toxic, that wasn't love to begin with, because that whole thing is predicated on control, manipulation, all of those things. And so actually having the boundary, severing that connection, is the act of love, even though it appears to be the opposite.
Yeah, well said. 100%. And I love what you said about adding yourself to the equation, right? That is super important. We see this. It's very common in addict situations. Family has someone that has an addiction problem, and yet they keep giving them money, or they keep helping them out. They become a
Yep.
codependent. Like, this is exactly what humanity is doing, right? I mean, people supporting and condoning government, they're a codependent on this narcissistic abusive relationship.
Right. Yeah, that aspect of including yourself, because people, I think, that tend to resonate more with this idea of love and being a loving person, because love is so attached to care, which is a feminine energy. Then it corresponds to that feminine archetype, even when it's the imbalanced, such as, say, the doormat or the people pleaser. And so that's where it's like they do all of this stuff in the name of love or the idea of love, but they're betraying themselves, they're abandoning themselves and their own needs and their own dignity in the process, for the sake of this idea of love.
Well said. Absolutely.
Those type of people tend to be a lot more susceptible to that, of you know counting themselves out
Yeah,
to make someone else happy.
for sure. Yeah, man. Well said. Well said. People in the chat, if you have any questions, you put that in the chat. There's a lot of chatting going on. Um, there's some people. There's someone ranting in there. I mean, if you have a question, that would be great. If you can like simplify what you're talking about. I don't know if you're just venting, or if you actually think that that's the information that I'm talking about. But that's
That
way off.
person's been just projectile vomiting all over the chat the whole time you've been presenting. So
Oh, I got you. I got you.
Yeah.
Well then, let me express some love and get that fucker out of there.
Yeah.
Later.
there you go.
Yep,
Peace.
for sure. I mean, love is like both you guys were saying. Like, love is also saying no, right? You look at something
Right.
like the American Revolution. That's an act of love, for sure. I mean, you have these people coming in to invade and steal and murder. There's an act of love. Self-defense is an act of love. So that's
That's
why
it.
it's important to kind of It's why it's important to understand some of these words and phrases and concepts, like to kill and to murder, right? They're completely opposites. Completely
And
opposites.
and I would just say, well, the context behind it, because sometimes people want to just like look up Webster's dictionary definition of whatever word, and I'm like, well, the human language is kind of a liquid animal. I
Mm.
would think, it's very flowy. If you look at it from the larger scale of things, um, as far as history goes, like language has changed and altered, and really it's just about the context behind it sometimes. Because, I mean, like, I was just, as a side thing, I was looking up this word egregious, and um, it's being used in the modern day as something that's very negative. It has a lot of negative connotations behind it. But historically, it actually means something very complimentary, and it has something more to do with, like, apparently being distinguished, if you go as far back as like the 1500s. So I think there's, it would be important for people to understand history as well when it comes to language. And so, like with the language of like the word using words like love and care and will and all these, there's a history to this, and context I think plays a role in how we do it, because at the end of the day it's just how we express it. So in 1,000 years from now we're going to be expressing this kind of information probably in a completely new way, with different words that we come up with. It's just kind of like interesting if you look at it from like a historical standpoint on like how people spoke like 500 years ago versus today. So
That's yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and that's another reason why it's so important to. It's like when you say, "Oh yeah, I'm a content creator." Well, that means a whole bunch of things. Like, are you, pranking your brother? Are you doing cat videos? But of course, like you said, the context is important, and bringing it down to that philosophical level, that's why it's so important for comprehension. So it's like you can, especially the English language, which is almost like a bastardized uh, language. The masculine and the feminine has been removed from that language, or it's been, it's kind of been transferred, versus something like Spanish or Italian or French, where there's the masculine and feminine components to words itself. So absolutely, context and how it's expressed, the comprehension of the presenter, and of course the viewer as well. And so much language just falling into these acronyms now, right? BRB, LOL. It's missing a lot of the intimate messaging and context in communication, especially English nowadays, I would say.
yeah, and it can be misunderstood too. Like, most people think of LOL as laugh out loud, but I've actually heard people think LOL is lots of love. So it could mean that. So
Exactly.
so it really, context matters. And like, you know, like I don't know. I think that, putting things into long form is good practice, I think.
For
But I
sure.
think Angela has a question.
Yeah, let's put that on there. Hi, Angela. Thanks for joining. Is it an act of love to omit, censor, suppress information slash knowledge? Well, I would say again, like what Sarah was saying. I mean, context matters. What type of information are you talking about? Is it, my daughter's iPad is, pornography popping up on her iPad, right? I mean, is there vital information that the public needs, but mainstream media is withholding that? So is there someone acting a fool in my live presentation that's in the chat, so I just kick them out or I block them? So it all depends on the context. This is actually I'm glad you posted this question, and we'll get Sarah and Logan's take on it, because I see a lot of people in the, quote unquote freedom communities that have a hard time with like censorship. They're in an imbalanced state of just, well, you shouldn't censor anything, which is kind of like that unconditional state of love, right? What you're saying is no boundaries. So anybody can come here and just say whatever they want. Might as well just kick your door in and just walk into your house and, start eating food out of your fridge. So it's like, what is the context to the information that is being conveyed? If you're in a group and we're talking about a certain topic, and someone's completely off topic or being a nuisance or something like that, then yeah, you remove that person. That's not censorship. So what do you guys think on that?
Yeah, 100%. Um, I've made several posts about this in the past couple of weeks about that exact thing. And it's shocking when it's so many so-called anarchists saying this kind of thing, and it's like this is such a basic thing, but they're clearly demonstrating their lack of understanding of what actual censorship is. If there's no coercion involved, that's the main thing. But also, it's about property rights, and so I will give them that. Say Facebook or something. It's a little bit of a gray area because it's like public, but also private, if that makes sense. Like it's a public forum, but yet your page is your property, and you have the right to sort of have control over your little corner of the internet. And so I can see both sides of it, but obviously, eh, you know, not having any boundaries within your own digital domain is just chaos, and it's antithetical, especially if you're trying to put a message out there, and then you've got all this noise that's just drowning out the signal. It's working against you in that way. So yeah, I mean, my whole policy, for what it's worth, is if you're disagreeing respectfully, then by all means, I post things to start conversations, not to live in an echo chamber. So I welcome healthy disagreement, meaningful conversations. But to me, it's very obvious pretty early on if a person is being authentic or not, if they're genuinely trying to have a conversation, or if they're just there to come in your house and smear shit all over the walls, and that I won't tolerate. If they're being combative for the sake of being combative, or disrespectful and abusive, like, you can have a respectful conversation and disagree without that. So that's kind of my guidelines or rules that I use to decide where I'm going to enforce boundaries and block people if necessary.
Well said.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm glad she put that question up because I agree with both you guys, and I agree that withholding truth is a violation of theft. However, context. You got to have context. Like, you got to understand appropriate timing as well when, putting out information, or when you let out information or withhold information. Like, like you were saying, like a kid with an iPad and there's all this like porn or inappropriate stuff popping up that they could be exposed to at too early in an age where they don't understand what they're looking at. I'm going to block all of that. I mean, I didn't even give my daughter a cell phone until she was like 15. Didn't have any of that nonsense going on in
Yeah.
my house, because what's a 14-year-old going to do with a cell phone? You know, so besides maybe become a victim of some kind of internet predator or whatever. So it's like you've got to like balance how you how you tell truth or how you tell people information. And sometimes it's about like age appropriate content. Like sometimes I come across people who they're not quite ready for, say, this part of the information, but they are ready for this. So I'm going to give them this. And I know that within their own time, they're going to then be ready for this. And I've seen that so many times. So I don't consider that withholding anything. I consider that giving people the space that they need to come into what the information means, really. And as far as like, your space online or whatever, you don't have to, like, people can say whatever they want, freedom of speech all the way. Say all that you want, just run that mouth all day long, but that doesn't mean that I have to listen to it. So I will block people, and I will, publicly block people. I'll be like, I don't care. I'm not going to deal with harassment. And I don't think anybody else should either. So, I mean, that's just my take on that. So I don't feel like it's necessarily like Logan said, there's a gray area there. And I don't think it's necessarily evil to censor things that are becoming like inappropriate or just like an invasion of what you're actually trying to do. So,
I could actually add on a little bit more as well,
Hey, Logan, real
because
quick.
again,
Oh, it cleared up. Your headset cleared up. Yeah, it's good.
oh,
Oh, go ahead.
okay, um, yeah, it all comes back to coercion and consent, right? These are the fundamental foundations of voluntary interaction, freedom, all of this. So, as Sarah was saying, choosing to not say something or say something in a certain way, that's not censorship. That's just communication, and people can decide how they want to engage with other people, how what things they do and don't want to talk about. That's just basic human interaction, unless it's something vital, like say you're selling someone a car and then you're withholding that it has a faulty electrical system. Well, yeah, that is a form of theft, because they can't make an informed decision about that car unless they have that information. um, that it context really matters, basically, and there's a lot of nuance to this stuff. So it's dangerous to paint too broad of a brush over things like this, because you have to understand what makes something coercion or not. you know um, choosing what you want to have a conversation about is something totally different, and if it falls in the domain of just voluntary association or disassociation, that's just as much of a right. If somebody doesn't want to talk to someone, that's not withholding. That's just I don't voluntarily interact with this person right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, if it's relevant to them personally and they need that information to make an informed choice, then there is sort of a moral obligation to divulge that information. Uh, and yes, I think protecting your child against certain information is another sort of, but it's an exception, not the rule. 95% of situations, um, is you know actual censorship is not um, justified. But again, what is the mechanism by which you're actually censoring people? Is it forceful, or is it voluntary? That's very important.
Yeah, exactly. Like the needlecraft with informed consent, right? It's like
yeah.
Yeah.
great,
Uh,
great examples. That yeah, you guys nailed it, and
and I
that was
just
good.
wanted to add really quick, just to
Yep.
add Angela's question: is it an act of love to admit, you know, da, 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 that kind of stuff? Then I would say that, um, in the context of giving people the space to become like aware enough or old enough to be able to understand information, yeah, it can be an act of love to censor to that degree in a way where you're like, okay, when, say my child or this person is ready to understand that, I understand that they're going to come to me and ask me a question. So before that, they're not necessarily ready for it. So, yeah, so I would say, yes, in that context, Angela, I would say that it is. I forgot that.
Great, yeah, great little additive there. That was awesome. Derek Barticelli, what's up, brother? Thanks for joining us, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great, y'all. How y'all doing? Will, I'm so sorry I missed you in California last time I was around. So little time, too many things going on, but yeah, it
Yeah,
was a
it's
really
all good.
cool. Uh, yeah, I really enjoyed the presentation. I was caught up on the Europa Natural Law live stream that cut into your time, but yeah, I caught the last 40 minutes at least, and I just really appreciate your style and aesthetics of presentations, and you got that father archetype with that fatherly voice as well, and bringing your experience to the knowledge you learned as well, via wisdom and all this stuff, and using that rhetoric in a proper way. And yeah, Sarah, you got kids as well, and so yeah, I feel you on those types of censorships in context, but and that is stemming from that place of care and this and that, because young minds are so easily subjected to umpteen thousand images passing across their screens and television sets and all that stuff. So yeah, Will, I really appreciate you bringing in a lot of different elements in regards to love and this and that, and yeah, hitting that triangle at the right angle, not some isoscelean thing, and because
Thanks,
they're
brother.
all the sides are equal, right? And so yeah, if we're all equally have trajecting towards that agape, the source love, but we can have the relationship with the eros, male, female, or whatever the fuck, right? But as you mentioned later on, especially in regards to cosmic law of gender and yada yada, but yeah, there's just a lot of things to consider and take to heart first and foremost, and see with that first eye. Mon ami, yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, much love for
appreciate
your
that,
great
brother.
work, brother. Yeah.
Thanks, man. Excellent. Did you have any comments on Angela's question on censorship? And just real quick, Chris Youngblood, what's up, brother? He added in here in the Greek um, synopsis, people exchanged ideas with good conscience. Someone who had ill intent with bad will was banished from the square, for they did not bring heart and intellect. No difference. I like that. I like that. You got to bring heart and intellect.
Mhm.
Yep,
That sincerity, that authenticity.
that's right. Yeah, in the Greek they would have the squares, the public squares, like it was philosophy time, like bring your or even just general concerns, group of people, anyone could join, and then you hash it out and you talk it out. I mean, that would be fantastic in the modern age, but again, 8 billion people and, thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of people in just towns or cities and stuff. That's not feasible. But yet again, we have what we're doing now, right? What's the difference from a physical square to a digital square? We can still do the same thing and actually have the connection and the communication, and kind of dish out certain concepts, ideas, or information.
Word.
Yeah. So, Dick, did you have anything that you wanted to comment on censor? Logan and Sarah,
Yeah,
did a
sure.
fantastic job commenting on that. But if you want to add something,
Because yeah, I mean, under the nanny state, right, and the whole occultocracy and the technocratic static and all these things, like we're treated like children, like oh, you can't say this, so we're gonna censor you or shadow ban you or all these things, and so yeah, that it's funny because like we have these false figures of authority acting like parents, like no, you can't look at that truthful shit, because we gotta maintain control, whatever the fuck, you know, superimposing as like the real mothers and fathers, with you two above. Logan, I don't know if you got kids, but I think you and I are on the same level, and it doesn't matter. But yeah, it's uh, it's nerve wracking, and it's not of a place of love at all. It's more of a place of control and their fear of what we would do if we all gathered in mass to, tear down the fucking curtains of the Wizard of Oz motherfucking bullshit, and just take these folks out to that public square, like you mentioned. We're not going to stone people to death like back in the day, but like people need to be held accountable for their draconian actions and whatever the fuck, right?
I wouldn't mind getting to that point. But again, when you're
Hard
just
brother, at least.
when it's the numbers are so low, the stones will start getting thrown on you for defending yourself from the abusers that are abusing the majority of people, right? So there's that mind control there. But yeah, yeah, well said. And I actually wanted to add something about the comment earlier about having kids in the day and age. And I've been on both sides of that fence. When I was coming into my awareness of what is truly going on in reality, I was like, man, who the fuck would want to have kids in this human condition? But that was an incorrect imbalance. I am now at this state of what I've kind of conveyed in the presentation. It starts with the individual work, right? Developing that relationship with truth, with creation, nature, principles. And then if you unite with a partner that's like-minded, that is also doing that work, absolutely, you should have kids for sure. So I'm in
Yeah,
agreement with. I think more moral people should have children for sure.
yeah. I would just say having kid, like not having kids, abstaining from children just because of whatever state of the world you think that it's in. If you think that the world is in a poor state, then create a better one. And abstaining from having children as some sort of punishment to humanity is kind of a, I would call that, leaning into the realm of like developing a mental illness in a way where you're afraid of how the world is, you're afraid of the future that could be. So I'm just going to like not have children. And like I fail to see the motive behind that for people other than some kind of punishments, or something that they don't even understand, that it's like totally subconscious, trauma based, fear based behavior, and it really means nothing.
It
So
seems like cowardice to me personally. I mean, sure, I don't have kids, so I maybe I can't speak to that, but to me, I think one of the most powerful things you can do to improve the state of the world is to create moral human beings and raise them up and to be a force of truth and goodness in the world beyond your lifetime. When you pass away, they will continue on having that impact on the world. That's that's powerful. It's
yeah,
that should override any sort of. I mean, I think some of it is coming from a good place of like, if you care about your kids, you don't want them to suffer. So I think that's where a lot of people are coming from. Is like, I don't want to raise a being, create a life, someone I care so deeply about that's gonna live in this wicked world, and who knows what's gonna happen to them and all of that kind of stuff. I get it, but like, part of being a parent is equipping them to live in the world no matter the state of things, and to be courageous and stand in truth. If you're worried about that, then instill them with what they will need to thrive in the world and to be that positive force. It's almost like an admission of their own inadequacy, that I can't raise a human that would be able to overcome or adapt and thrive in any kind of environment.
yeah, you got to put the right
Well
tools
said.
in the toolbox for things to be able to build correctly. And you got to have the right, yeah, you just have to like stop making excuses and
That's what it
just,
is. It's a total excuse.
it is,
Cop
it's
out.
an excuse to be irresponsible and self-indulgent in many ways. Now there are people who can't have children by whatever natural issue that came up, and like, I mean, this is like, all the people I know who can't actually have children because of whatever problem naturally, they wish that they could have children because they're missing that, you know, ability that we all have. And I think that's like deep rooted in there. That's part of that. What comes from love is creating,
The
because
ultimate
all,
act of creation,
yeah,
creating
all
another life.
creation is love. It's an act of love. So
Absolutely. Well said. So I'm trying to look. There's really no more questions. I think we're going to start to wrap it up. If you guys have anything you want to add, and all of you are also, putting your own work out there. So give a shout out to your guys' website if you don't mind. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I just want to say, building off of what you were all talking about, and going back to the triangle and taking it to the tarot. We have the Three of Pentacles, right? And that's kind of like the first actual geometric structure that can be really a foundational object to work with, I guess, if you will. I mean, like 4x4 plywood. That's I'm thinking more three dimensionally, if you will, and then you take it to the four. That's like four representing like the actual structure, and I think the four represents like making a house into a home when you have that family unit and all this stuff, and like um, nuclear family crap aside, one kid and a dog or a cat and all this stuff, but yeah, there is the flip with the tarot with the three of hearts, and having to deal with the shadow work and all the shadow work that comes up during relationships is something to for people out there listening to consider. It's a reminder for myself as well, and all these things. And yeah, so what are the conditions? As you mentioned, Will, I really appreciate you bringing that up of conditional versus unconditional love, because there can be too much woo woo fluffiness of it's all unconditional, this and that. But if the conditions are violating your rights as a human being, is that really love? Things to consider, right? So, and it does take one to love thyself to love another, having that, something to give to others. And if you don't have it for yourself, how can you give it to someone else? And that harkens back to that good old Levolution. I know they've had a couple of y'all on there, with the radio show, Sarah, with the Revolution.radio. Yeah. So last
Me
thing I
and John
want to
Paul. Yeah.
say is going back to the Matrix, right? What did the Oracle say to Neo? Being the one is like being in love. You don't necessarily know it. It's just like it's beyond just a feeling. It's a multi-dimensional sensation or sense beyond just five sense perception of consciousness and all these things, and just embodying that and living through the heart-based intelligence in alignment with universal law, natural law, cosmic law, all these things. It just enriches your life and the ones around you so much more, and makes a wonderful relationship, especially when both sides, going back to that triangle, are on that trajectory to that you know life force energy source code, codes of consciousness, if you will. So yeah, I do some good old mixing of hip hop on my channel, Awaken Your Mind, one word, and I actually have a mix titled Levolution. That's really cool and would fit in well if anyone wants to check that out. More on BitChute or Odyssey, because the ScrewTube is plaguing my channel with all types of censorship. But dealing with music, I got to deal with copyrights and all that. You know about that, Will and Logan. So yeah. C'est la vie, mes amis. Great to see you all. Always a pleasure, honor, and all that stuff. And yeah, thanks again, my friend. Yeah.
Appreciate you, Derek. Right on. Sarah?
Yeah, thanks for having me on again. And I really enjoyed the presentation, Will. It was really well said. I agree with all of it because, and it is true. And I appreciate you mentioning the issue with unconditional love and how this is being used and propagated, because I think there's a bit of a confusion with this. Like, there's a difference between loving everyone and everything and all of creation and all of knowledge, and then doing this in an unconditional way where it can just like people can just take advantage of you and you just forgive and forget. I think I think it would be healthy for people to understand the difference between real love and synthetic love, because there are conditions to love. You could love somebody, but the condition is if they act like a monster, then you won't associate with them, despite loving them or not is kind of irrelevant. So I think that was a great part of the presentation that you brought up. It's
I appreciate that.
important.
Thank you. And real quick, your live show, your radio show, which I had the pleasure of being a guest on just recently, and you're changing the time. Is it still going to be on Wednesdays?
Yeah, it's still going to be on Wednesdays. That's Crosstalk on Revolution Radio. You can look it up, revolution.radio.com. It's on Studio A on Wednesdays. And in January 8th, it's going to be starting Pacific Standard Time, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. So I'm increasing it just by an hour earlier. And that starts January 8th. So it'll be 2 hours now. And yeah, the last episode we had, people can go and find that on my platforms everywhere that I posted. And it was a really great episode. So thank you for coming on.
Excellent.
And we do the girls club.
There you go.
So
Beautiful. And my brother Logan, go ahead.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to appearing again with Will on your show, Sarah, to talk about some healing modalities. That'll be really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Will, great job, man, as always. I mean, your your delivery, your aesthetics, always just top notch all the way across the board. And I was just thinking how cool it is that natural law is such a multifaceted topic that there's just infinite angles that you can present it, and that's how I kind of see. You've talked about spiritual ecology and all these different things that are kind of all roads leading to the same place, but in a different package, and might resonate differently to different people. The science of love, really great catchy title, and who doesn't want to hear about love? That's it's a universal thing that, like, even like we talked about earlier, even if people don't fully even understand what that means, everybody's all about the love, right? So yeah.
What's love got to do? Got to do with it. Tina
That's the
Turner, which by
science
the
of
way,
love.
I was in the middle of making a meme before this presentation. I didn't get it in the actual presentation, but it was Tina Turner and Ike Turner. And Ike Turner was representing the government, and Tina Turner's like, just people that want to live free and express themselves.
Nice.
Dark joke. So
Yeah,
cool.
my platform is the Wizard Factory, so anybody want to check that out, thewizardfactory.com. It's kind of the one-stop shop. You'll find everything, lead to my platforms or content. And yeah, got a lot planned for next year. Been kind of slow lately, but big things in the works.
Excellent. Right on. Well, I appreciate all of you coming on in the after chat of this presentation. And the viewers, thanks for tuning in. We've had a decent amount of people watching all the way through, so I appreciate your time and your attention. To my guests, I'll say farewell, and then I got a couple announcements to make. So thank you all for joining and contributing to this discussion. Appreciate it. See you on the next one.
Later.
Keep it funneling through, brother. Yeah. Much love.
All right. Thank you. Okay, folks. So I'm going to wrap it up. I got a few quick little announcements. That was great. There was a lot of good chat. Viewers in the chat had great comments. There's always going to be a little dross, and that is what it is. It comes with the territory. So I want to say, coming up in 2025, let me show this. We have the Funnel 4. That's the Freedom Under Natural Law conference. This is the 4th conference that we have done with Chris Janston and Leslie Powers and myself, the co-creators, the organizers. This one is titled Humanity Rising. This is a free 2-day online conference. It will start February 22nd, 2025 and February 23rd, 2025. And the theme is Inspiring Care to Action. We got a great lineup of presenters from all different categories. We're going to have some music, some art, all different types of kind of creative expression under that banner, Freedom Under Natural Law, Inspiring Care to Action. So save the date. You can go to freedomundernaturallaw.com to check out all the fantastic replays that we've had. We've had some really high caliber speakers in the past conferences. So make sure you save that date, go to the website, check out the videos, and we will see you then in February. And also, I want to give a shout out to Mark Passio. He has his How to Become the True Media seminar. It has moved from the later portion of the year, and now it will start to be in the earlier portion of the year. So 2025 is starting in January. You can enroll. There are a few more open spots available. Enrollment will end. It will close on New Year's Day 2025. So it has moved from January to June. It's a 23-week seminar on the Telegram platform. The past years have been fantastic. A lot of great students that have taken in the information on how to publish a message on morality, natural law, how to create true freedom, and became, content creators and publishing that message. So go to howtobecomethetruemedia.com to check out the details or to enroll. And again, you can discover more of my work and my presentations at willkeller.com. And I just want to give a shout out. Oh, thank you, Jen. Thank you, Daryl. Chris, appreciate it. Better late than never. A lot of people in here. Jan. And just the viewers that tune in when I do these live presentations. It's been a while since I did one, but it's always great to come on here and really express myself. This is kind of my niche that I like to get into. And then the guests that came on afterwards for the after chat. So thank you all. And again, I'll see you guys next round. Got a lot of projects coming up. Take care. Happy solstice, everybody.